Hey guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So I'm back with another recent reads, and unfortunately a lot of these books that I'm going to talk about I did not enjoy. I'm not sure if it has to do with this funk that I've been in these last couple of weeks that I'm trying to get myself out of, but a lot of the books that I'm going to talk about today, for whatever reason, they just were not working for me. So we will go ahead and get started. The first one we're going to start with, and my only DNF that I'm going to talk about, is The New Couple in 5B by Lisa Unger. This is a adult mystery thriller with some horror elements in there, and this is my second book by this author. The first one I read this past winter, and it was Christmas Presents, which I fairly enjoyed that one. But this one, however, did not work for me. So we're following this couple, and the guy's uncle has recently passed away, and they inherited a apartment in this really upscale apartment building. So they're really excited about it, especially because they weren't really doing that well financially. And so now they have the opportunity to stay in this apartment. And so of course, as soon as they get there, some strange things start to happen, especially to the woman. So I DNF'd this 160 pages in. It started off really grabbing my attention. There were a couple of scenes that kind of left me a little unsettled, and so I thought I was really going to get into this. But quickly after those scenes, the pacing of this just really fell short for me because it was so slow. It was so boring. Not a lot was happening, and this just was not keeping my attention. I was listening to this on audio, and I never felt like I wanted to turn the audiobook on. I just did not care about anything that was happening in this book. Now, I did have a theory in the beginning about who might have been responsible for some of the things that was happening in this apartment building. And so when I decided that I was going to DNF it, somebody told me to just read I think it was the last 3 chapters. And that's what I did. And I was correct in regards to who was responsible for the things in this apartment, but I wasn't aware of everything else that was going on. I don't think I would have been satisfied with the ending had I continued with this whole story. So unfortunately, this Lisa Unger did not work for me. So this next one, it really pains me to tell you guys that I did not like this book. And I have a spoiler-filled review all about this book that I will have linked, but this is The Reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. This was my most anticipated read for this year because I have enjoyed everything that this author has written thus far. If you're not familiar with Holly Jackson, she is the one that wrote A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series, also the prequel book for that series. Then she wrote 5 Survive, and I have videos over all of those, so I will have those linked down below for you as well. But this one just did not live up to my expectations, especially knowing how good this author's other books were. So we're actually following our main character, Belle, and at the start of this, she's 18 years old, I think. She's a senior in high school, and 16 years prior, her mother, Rachel, had disappeared, and technically at that time, Belle was a witness to that, but obviously she can't remember what happened. And so over the years, there have been a lot of theories into what happened to Rachel. And at this point, Belle and her father, Charlie, have just assumed that Rachel is never coming back and she's probably dead. So they decide to participate in a documentary all about Rachel's disappearance. And while they're filming for that documentary, Rachel reappears. And so the book is just following Belle as she's trying to get more information into Rachel's disappearance because Rachel's story has not been consistent. I rated this one 2 stars. I did not like it at all. This was a really long book. I don't think it needed to be that long. I was not a fan of our main character, Belle. She was really annoying. She was really passive aggressive. She was really rude to everybody that she talked to. So it was not a fun time getting the story from her POV. And then the ending, there was just so many plot holes in this story that it still blows my mind. In the video that I did for this one, I go over everything about the ending that I did not like, all the questions that I still have, because a lot of this just does not make sense. I was so disappointed when at some point in this story, I was like, yeah, I don't like it. And it really disappoints me because I actually have 2 copies of this book. So this is the version that I got from Waterstones, and I was super excited because I never ordered anything from Waterstones. I hate that it had to be this one first, But I was excited to get this one. And so Book of the Month had, their own version as well. So I went ahead and got both copies just because I knew in my heart that this was going to be like a favorite of the year, and it's not making that list. So yeah, if you guys are interested in it, by all means, check it out. But if you want to know spoilers, I suggest you guys go check out that video. Another disappointing read that I also rated 2 stars is Murder Road by Simone St. James. So I was really looking forward to this one. This is a adult mystery thriller. This was on my most anticipated reads for this year, and it left me severely disappointed. So this one, we're following a couple, a newlywed couple, April and Eddie, in the year 1995. And they are traveling along this road trying to go to their honeymoon destination. And so while they're traveling along the road, they end up picking up a hitchhiker that dies at the hospital. And now they're like suspected of this hitchhiker's death. And then they learn that some other things have been happening along this road. Other hitchhikers have been killed along this road. And instead of just leaving, they decide that they're going to investigate and figure out what's going on this particular road. Obviously, did not like this one. The beginning of it, the first couple of chapters were really interesting when they were picking up this hitchhiker and like the events that were surrounding that. After that, this story just fell flat for me. First off, I don't even understand why this had to take place in 1995, because had you not told me that this was set in 1995, I just thought it was set today. There was really nothing indicating that this took place in 1995. So I just, for the life of me, I don't understand why it was set back then. And then I just was not a fan of either of the characters. So April and Eddie, there was this whole thing where they are alluding to like some secrets that both of these characters are hiding from each other and they don't want it to get out. Obviously they get out. Their secrets didn't do anything for the plot of the story. So I don't understand why we had like this whole section of them being worried about these secrets that were going to be revealed. Then I don't think this book was like atmospheric enough for me. They're along this creepy road. Someone is killing these hitchhikers. And Simone St. James is known for really leaning into that supernatural element. And I've seen her do it better in other books, and then it was not done well in here. And then the end of the story was so confusing. It was so underwhelming. And this is a book that I graciously gave 2 stars. The more I ponder on it, it probably could have been rated lower. I do plan on picking up some other stuff by Simone St. James because I do have 2 other of her books. The one is The Sundown Motel, which I've heard some good things about. And then another one that I can't remember what the title of that book is called, but I believe it is a re-release for her. I think a lot of her backlist stuff is getting re-released with new covers. So I got one of those. So I still plan to pick up other stuff from her, but this one was just not it for me. So the next book that we have here is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is a cozy adult fantasy. And I was really excited because there has been so much hype surrounding this book and the book that came after. So I'm happy that I finally got a chance to read it. But in this one, we are following this orc by the name of Viv. She used to be a fighter. She's given up that life. And so now she wants to open up a coffee shop. The only thing with her opening up this coffee shop is she's doing it in an area where no one knows what coffee is. So we're basically just watching Viv as she builds this coffee shop and tries to introduce it to this town. So we're watching her as she finds a location, as she hires people to work for her, as she's coming up with like different coffee drinks, different menu items. And there is a little bit of something that happens like in the middle, but it's definitely, like the back of the book says, low stakes. So I gave this 3 stars. I can see why everybody really enjoys this book. It is basically vibes. It does have those cozy vibes going on. But for me and the type of stories that I enjoy, I need a little bit more plot. This had no plot at all. And it was actually hard to connect with any of the characters because this is really short and we don't really get a lot of backstory about the characters in order for me to care about them at all. I do know that the other book that's in the series is a prequel, and I think it goes more into Viv's backstory. But after reading this one, I'm just not interested in that other book. I am happy that I finally picked this up because I was curious, especially with all of the hype, but I'm not really sure cozy fantasy is for me. So the next book that I have here is Recursion by Blake Crouch. This is a adult sci-fi thriller. So we follow two characters. We have Barry, who is a New York detective, and then we're following Helena, who is a neuroscientist. And so in the world that they're in, there has been an epidemic that has started to spread through New York, at least. And so it slowly starts to spread across the world over the course of the story, but it's basically called FMS, which is false memory syndrome. And I believe what happens is people will start to develop these false memories, and they're starting to confuse those false memories with their true memories, and it has started to cause a lot of chaos in the city. And so we're following both of these characters at like different timelines throughout the story, from before the epidemic to after the epidemic, and then it just kind of like jumps back and forth, kind of like all over the place. And so we watch these two characters as they get together to try to stop the spread of FMS. I gave this 3 stars. What I have learned about all of the books that I have read from Blake Crouch thus far is that I really, really, really enjoy his ideas. I love the idea of false memory syndrome, how it was like created, what it does to a person. But what I've learned that I don't like about his books is just the execution. So in this one, how I said, we start jumping around the timelines. I think that can get very confusing, and it definitely got confusing for me. While they're trying to figure out the false memory syndrome, at certain points, like the characters actually experience this false memory syndrome. And so stuff starts to happen really fast. This is fast paced, but stuff starts to happen really fast, and you think that it's real, but then they tell you it's not real, and then it'll jump to the next set of events, and then you have to go back, and then it just keeps kind of repeating itself. So at certain points, it gets really repetitive. And there was a certain point in here where I just got so confused because I just could not keep up with where we were in the story, if it was true, if it was not true. Some people might really enjoy that, but for me, I don't like to be that confused. So I think if we would have did a couple of memory jumps, a couple of time skips, that would have been okay for me, but it was doing it a little too much in the story. On top of that, we got a weird romance. I did not think that there needed to be a romance between our two main characters. It served no purpose for me in this story, and it just kind of took away from everything that was actually happening. So yeah, I settled on 3 stars. I was really, really into this book in the beginning, but by the end, like I said, it just left me in a ball of confusion. But I do plan on picking up more from the author. So then the next book that I have is College Girl Missing by Sean Cohen. And this was an ARC that I received from NetGalley. It's not released until May, the end of May. I'll put the release date at the bottom in case you guys are interested. But this is a true crime book, and it is following the missing person case of Lauren Spear. And I was really interested in this because she had went to IU, Indiana University, and Indiana is where I'm from. And this was a huge case that I actually remember back when she first went missing. And so when I saw that there was like a book about it, I decided that I really wanted to read that because I remember her case, but I didn't know a lot of details. So basically this book is written by Sean Cohen. He is a journalist who actually reported a lot of things while this case was taking place. So he decided that he was going to look at the case again and release some new information that we did not know before. So basically, in a nutshell, Lauren Spear went missing after a night out with some friends, and there has been a lot of questions surrounding whether or not these friends played a part in her disappearance. To this day, she has never been found. So the book really goes into like the different people that played a part in her disappearance. It goes over a lot of like the mistakes that the police made. It goes over a lot of witness statements. And so the thing for me with this one, I was very intrigued with knowing more about this case because, like I said, I was familiar with it, but I didn't really know the ins and outs. The author said that they were trying to give us more information that we didn't know before. And so it was hard to pick out what did we know before and what didn't we know, because the only thing that he talked about towards the end, so the first part of the book is just all the facts, what happened that night that she disappeared. And so after that, the second half of the book is him re-interviewing people. And I guess that was the additional information, just what these people said years later. I wish it was just pointed out more about what we knew before and what additional information I'm giving you guys now. And so there was also a point in this where he was talking about, in preparation for this book, he was on a lot of forums and on a lot of blogs, and he was reading a lot of theories. And I wish that he would have told us what those theories were. The only theory that we know, there are two theories that was explored, you know, when she disappeared, was one, that the people that she was with had something to do with her disappearance. And two, when she walked out of these guys' apartment that night. So what happened was she was drunk, and these guys let her leave their apartment, and then she was never seen from again. But one person that she was with claims she could have been taken by somebody when she was walking back to her apartment. We don't know, but those were the two things that they talked about a lot. And so I kind of wanted a little bit more. I especially just wanted a little bit more distinction between what the public already knew and what this guy had found out in addition to that. So it was interesting overall. I think this was it was a really highly publicized case, so you guys may be familiar with it. But if you guys are interested in it, I do think that is a book to read. So then the next one that I have here is The Bone Shard War by Andrea Stewart. It is book 3 in the Drowning Empire series. It's a adult fantasy, and I'm not gonna really go into a lot about this just because it is book 3, and I will be filming a series review, so that will be coming out after this video comes out. So be on the lookout for that. But I rated this one 4 stars. I have really enjoyed the series overall. I really love the characters. I love how the magic system was expanded upon by the time we got to this book. So my favorite book in that series is book 1, when we're really just introduced to the world and we're introduced to the magic. And then book 2, I gave that one 4 stars. And then, like I said, I rated this one 4 stars. The pacing was a little bit slower in this just because we are following these characters at different points. You know, in the typical fantasy story, and you have multiple characters, they always get separated for some reason, for one reason or another. And so it's the same in this one. And so we're following these characters as they are trying to complete different things wherever these characters are at. So I just really liked where this story eventually ended up going. And I did think that this had a very, very satisfying conclusion. So like I said, I will talk about this in more detail in that series review, but just know that I enjoyed this one and I really enjoyed the series overall. So the last book that I have to talk about, and a book that I also enjoyed and rated 4 stars, is Darling Girls by Sally Hempworth. This is a adult mystery. And so in this one, we are following 3 characters, 3 sisters, foster sisters. So we have Alicia, Nora, and Jessica. But they get this call from a detective saying that they need to come back to their old hometown because at the site of where their foster home was, some bones have been found, and the detectives want to ask them some questions about it. So we follow these sisters as they go back to their hometown, and they're being questioned about what took place at their foster home and if they know anything about these bones, these remains that have been found. And so, like I said, I enjoyed this story. I was hesitant going into this one because I read one other book by Sally Hempworth so far, and that was The Soulmate. And I didn't really enjoy that one as much as I thought I was going to. So I was a little nervous going into this one, but I like this one so much more than I like The Soulmate. I really enjoyed all of the sisters, so all 3 of the sisters, and I liked it because we're following each of their POVs and they felt like different characters. They all had different personalities. Even if you don't remember Like at the beginning, it'll tell you which sister you're reading from, but if you would never forget that. I do feel like sometimes when you have stories that follow different POVs, sometimes they can read the same, and these did not. And I liked all three of these characters. They were all very, very different, and they all had things going on in their past. And so we also got chapters from the past when they were living at this foster home with their foster mother, Miss Fairchild, who was a terrible lady and really mistreated them. And so I liked those chapters way more than I liked the present chapters. I thought the ending was a little bit predictable in terms of what happened and what was going on with those human remains. But overall, I just really liked the story, and it was a redemption for me, for Miss Sally Hempworth, because I wasn't really sure how soon I would get to something else from her. But after reading this book, I just know that I want to pick up something else from her, and I think that you guys should check this one out. So that is all that I have for you guys. I hope the next time I do one of these recent reads, it will feature some books that I actually really enjoyed. So like I mentioned before, I will have all of my reviews that I have done for Holly Jackson down below if you guys are interested, but I will see you guys next time. Bye.